Welcome to Carver Conversations. I'm your host, Tiff Marchand from Night Carver Designs, and this is a Sabretooth podcast, and I couldn't be more excited to be here. Head on over to sabretooth.com and sign up for their mailing list. They send out a coupon once a month for 25% off. You have 24 hours to use it, so you're not going to want to miss out on that chance. You can use our show code to save 10% off. The code is EM2CO. Head on over, sign up for the mailing list, and if you want to buy them now, EM2CO at checkout. Make sure to have that all in caps, and on to the show. All right, today on the show we have Bonnie Gibson from Bonnie Gibson Art. Bonnie is amazing at teaching people how to be self-sufficient, so they're not relying on other people to help them with even the smallest of things when it comes to, using your tools, understanding them, and changing your burrs. And you'll find out more about that soon. But I just want to highlight that I thought she was an incredible person who's had an amazing career, and we were very honored to be able to take an hour of her time while she was on vacation and have a chat with her out on the deck and enjoy her pleasant atmosphere with the birds chirping. So I hope you enjoy it, and make sure you check her out.
How is it where you are this morning?
We had a storm. It's been hot and humid and just super, super hot. And then you get a nice storm at night.
Are you in Michigan?
I'm in Massachusetts, but I swear we have the same weather.
Okay.
My old job, everybody was based in Michigan, so they'd always be telling us what's coming our way in 2 days.
Yep. Well, I'm visiting my relatives here in Minnesota, and it's 60 degrees. I had to go put on a long sleeve shirt, and at home it's 106. So it's kind of a nice change. Yeah.
It feels wonderful. Actually.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah, it is nice. Yep.
Have you always been from Arizona?
No, I moved out there in 1975 to get my master's degree and ended up getting married and staying.
Got you. Where were you from before?
I grew up in Minnesota.
Oh, okay. So that you're visiting home.
Yes. Yeah. My brother lives here, so I come up and we go to a cabin for a vacation, and it's just a nice way to get together now that we're both kind of retirees.
Yeah. That's wonderful. What were you doing before you retired?
I still actually work, and in my artwork is my business still. So it's kind of nice. I can work as much or as little as I want.
It's funny. I was stalking you, just checking out all your stuff, and I was like, this lady's got it down. You have a wonderful career in the arts, and just looking at all the different things that you offer and classes that you offer, it's really cool that you're let me show you exactly how to make this masterpiece.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's been a lot of fun for me, very rewarding to see people get it, because my target audience is all older people, mostly people like myself that have retired and have time on their hands and want to do something. And so it's really been good.
How did you get into gourds in the first place? I'm really curious about that.
I was at an art show and I saw what I thought was a Native American pottery. And I love all the Native American art in Arizona. And I picked one up and I thought, this isn't a pot. This is so lightweight. What is this? And the lady says, oh, it's a gourd. And I thought, a gourd, in Minnesota, when you think of gourd, you think of these little ornamental things in the grocery store that rot. But these are hard shell gourd. It's a whole different genre. It's something that gets hard like wood, and some of them that are grown in the Southwest are really thick. I've gotten gourds that have been, I don't know, 3/4 to an inch thick, which is a good carving surface.
I was gonna say, it gives you lots of room to play with.
Yeah,
that's really neat. Do you grow your own gourds, or do you?
No.
So that's a lot of effort.
No, well, I tried a few times, and I had javelinas, which are like a wild pig sort of that lives out in the desert. They come in and they eat them all, roots and all. So I gave up.
Yeah, that's a hard battle to fight.
Yeah. And I'm an okay gardener, but I'm a much better artist than I am a gardener. So
same. I kill plants on the regular. Yeah. You have somebody who grows for you that you go to particularly, or do you just kind of source from wherever?
No, there's a large gourd farm about an hour from me. In fact, it's probably one of the largest in the world, if not the
Oh wow.
country. I mean, they grow hundreds of thousands of gourds. And I don't know how much longer they'll last with the water situation in Arizona, but right now it's nice. I can drive up there and I can hand select exactly the shapes and sizes that I want. So that's kind of nice.
That is really nice. And do
Yeah.
you have to like let them dry out, or I don't know the process at all when it comes to gourds.
So it depends on where you live. Here in Arizona, when you plant a gourd, you plant it very early in the year, like February. And some of them are already finished and dried out by July, while others have to stay, for a couple of months, depending on how large they are, when they set in the vine. But in general, it takes about a year before a gourd is ready from the time you plant it. So,
That's cool. That's cool. You must have a surplus, I assume. Just
oh, every gourder has a box or two of gourds in their garage, I'm sure. I think I actually have a lot less than most people. So I'm pretty picky about the ones I want, and I don't produce as much as some people that do craft shows. I mean, I have great respect for them. They turn out so much stuff, and it's wonderful. But I don't want to do that kind of production work, so I don't need as many gourds. I'd rather do fewer pieces and more complicated
I was gonna
pieces.
say you get to actually like dive in deep, plan out your
Yeah,
pieces, and take your time to execute them. Like,
yeah. Well,
okay.
I like to try new things too, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of people that have to do craft shows to, make a few bucks or whatever, they have to kind of stick to the known things that they know sell or things that they can do over and over and over. And that's great. There's a place for all of us. So
Yep. Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at this piece where you have the colored pencil inlay, and I'm like, that's really, really neat. And it adds such a cool, like, because you have very horizontal lines and you have like the light curves for the flowers, but then you have these pencils go in there and it blends so well. Like, how do you plan out your pieces? Everything just hand drawn first, or do you wing it?
yeah, I draw directly on the gourd. I don't ever make pre-sketches, but I usually have an idea in my head and then the idea changes as I work on it on the gourd. I have no problem with wiping it off and starting over if I don't like it. So
Yeah,
uh,
same.
it's funny though, when some people come to classes, they'll spend all their time drawing some design and then they set it on the table and they look at it and they go, oh, I drew it on crooked. Oh well. And it's like, just wipe it off and redraw it. Oh no, it took me too long to do this. They're not willing necessarily to invest the time to make sure it's right.
Yeah, it makes a
So
huge difference. I
it does.
I just started playing with like the relief sculptures and stuff like that, and I did a Ninja Turtle because I do a lot of Ninja Turtles over here.
Okay.
But like I had to sand it off 3 or 4 times before I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to carve it now. Like it takes a while. Like you have an idea, you try it out, it doesn't look right, take it off, do it again. Like
Hmm.
it's the best
Well,
time to do it.
you do come to a point of no return where if you start on something that's wrong and then it's all of a sudden you spend so much time trying to fix it, it
Hmm.
would be much better just go back and redraw it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that takes a certain level of patience for sure. And like you said,
Yeah.
yeah.
And not everybody is into carving or anything for one reason. A lot of them just say, hey, it's relaxing. I want something to do while I watch TV or whatever it is they do.
Yep.
Other people, it's like a passion, so you got everything in between that too.
Yeah. How do people find you usually?
I started doing gourds back probably in the late 90s, and I started a little website. And I thought, nobody's going to look at my website. There's a million websites out
Hmm.
there. So, what can I do to attract people? And so I wrote some tutorials and I put
Yeah.
them on the website for free. And that was great. But then a book company contacted me and asked me to write a book on gourds because there wasn't a lot available at the time. And I think that's how people started finding me,
Hmm.
was through that. And then I started teaching classes. And, if you go out and teach classes and you really know what you're talking about, people will appreciate it. And I kind of had a pre-advantage in that I was a wood carver before
Yep.
I was a gourd carver. So I already knew about tools and what worked and what didn't work and how to save time when you're doing this and what tool would work well for you and not for somebody else, that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
so it just kind of mushroomed, which is great. I love it because I started them about the time my two kids graduated from high school and I had time. So
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. That's really
it
nice
is.
to have that break. I know. I have 6-year-old twin boys, so I've got a while
Oh
till
boy,
yeah,
you're
till that I can
busy.
yeah, absolutely. They are very energetic.
I'm
They,
sure they are. And
yeah,
thank goodness they're in school now. So you do have a little bit of time.
yeah, exactly. I actually put them in like the optional summer school. I'm like, yes, we'll take that. That way they only have 1 month home instead of 2 months home. Just
There you
yelling,
go.
mom, mommy, mom.
Yeah.
Like
I
that.
know that word well.
Yeah, right. They don't get tired of saying it. They don't.
No, they don't. And it's usually when you're on the phone.
Right. They like seriously, what this doesn't hold on once that doesn't matter to them. No.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you know it well. Okay. What did you go to college for? Was it fine art, like in carving? Is that was your goal the whole way through, or?
No, it's funny though. In eighth grade, we had a careers thing in our civics class, and the
Mhm.
librarian brought in all these books, and she said, pick out, 2 or 3 books of careers you would like that you would enjoy. And of
Mhm.
course, the careers for women at that time were non-existent, really. I was
Right.
pre-Title IX, and and they expected women to be secretaries or nurses. That was basically it. But I wrote why I wanted to be a wood carver, and I'm my teacher kind of okay, you know, but it's funny, I ended up doing that. So, but
So
I went to
awesome.
college. I went to college. I was going to get a double major in art and physical education, which is a really bizarre double major. But
Yeah.
the art teacher wanted me to move away from what I like to do, which was realism, into abstract, pure abstract. And I didn't like that, so I just dropped that major and decided just to do art for fun and not, study it. So I kind of cut myself short by doing that, but it hasn't really hurt me over the
Yeah.
years, I guess. So I got a teaching degree, taught 1 year, decided I hated teaching.
Yeah.
I didn't deal well with ninth graders that told you to, where you can go.
Mhm.
Uh, so I went back to school and I got a master's degree in sports medicine and athletic training. So I was the person that ran out in the football field when somebody
Yeah.
got injured and taped ankles. I really loved that. It was a great job and I liked what I did, but I had kids and it's a weekend and night kind of gig.
Right.
So I eventually moved out of it and just decided to be a stay-at-home mom, which was wonderful that I had that opportunity.
Yeah. No, that.
So gave me time to do my art then.
Mhm. It
So,
seems like you always needed an outlet for yourself. So I can imagine
mhm.
like that was the first thing you did is like, all right, I need to get back to what I was doing. Like a little bit of
Sure. And you
me.
you come into things from a totally bizarre way. Like I got into wood carving because when I had young kids, we went to the mall and they were having a wood carving show. And I stopped by some guy's booth and he was showing me his carved birds. And I said, oh, this is so neat. I'd love to learn how to. I've always wanted to do wood carving, back to my
Same.
eighth grade thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he says, well, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You buy one of these carving knives for me, and I will give you this wooden blank to carve. And, just come back next year and show me what you did with it. And so it was for a chickadee, which is a pretty easy bird for a first carve.
Yeah.
And so I finished it and I brought it back. And he goes, oh my gosh, nobody's ever brought one back. He says, I've given away several of these, but you're the first person that actually finished it and brought
Yeah.
it back. And so anyway, I got interested, but I didn't really enjoy the working with knives and things as much. So somebody, I don't know who, at one of the shows said, why don't you try using a Dremel tool and some carving burrs? And then that was it. I love that because
Yeah.
I'm a bit impatient and I could work much faster using those. So
That makes
that's
sense.
when I got into power carving.
Plus, the only time I've ever really gotten hurt with carving is when I was using hand tools because just
Yeah.
one little slip and you stab yourself, you know?
Yes, I still have a little scar on the palm here that I got when I was 16 and farting around with tools in the basement and stabbed myself with a
Yeah.
carving tool.
They go in so nicely right into the hand. Hmm.
Well, I no, I actually it was because it was dull and I didn't know
Oh,
better, and dull tools are always bad.
yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of Joiner's Handcrafted, but he makes like these gorgeous hand carved with like chisels and stuff.
Mhm,
Santas. He makes the
mhm.
most gorgeous Santas. And we had like a whole talk about how if you don't take care of your tools and keep them sharp, that you're prone more to injury. And like people are always
That's
afraid
true.
of getting hurt. And yeah, he's like,
It's
that's
very true.
the most
Even
important tool.
even in my carving classes, we still pull out like X-Acto knives. Most people have an X-Acto knife,
Hmm.
and we'll use those for fine details or trimming or things. And I look at the tools that people have when they first come in, and most of them, especially the women, they say, oh, well, this was my grandfather's Dremel tool. And they've got this box with rusty old burrs. That's all they have.
Yeah.
Or they have an X-Acto knife and the tip is broken off and it's dull. The one that gets me though is they have a sanding drum on their Dremel tool and there's no grit left on the band and they don't understand why it's not working. And I said, well,
Right.
you need to put a new band on. And she says, but I don't know how. And so many women, especially, come into this having been told all their life, you can't do this. This is for guys, that sort of thing. Like I could never take shop classes, which really drove me crazy. But anyway, so I teach them in my classes all these basics that they should have gotten, along the way, but just never had the opportunity.
That's beautiful. Do you ever
Yeah.
share any of that on YouTube or anything? Like,
No, I don't have, I mean, I'm talking to you over my tablet, so I don't really have any filming equipment. And I tried filming something once for YouTube using my phone propped up on a couple of blocks of wood, and
yeah,
it was very awkward. So I just haven't gone any further with it.
I was gonna say, like, those kind of tips would be so wonderful to
Mhm.
share out even more. Like you said, like those are things that you don't think about. Like I was raised by a father who did all those things. So I've been exposed to tools and how they work, and I got a pretty good understanding. Like there's still a lot of things I'll open up and I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, how does this
Yeah.
thing connect? Like, because they don't give, like, they'll give you the burrs and those kits when you buy them, but there's not instructions on how each burr works.
Yeah,
Like,
I have a whole class that's all we talk
talk
about are
about,
safety and taking care of your tools and what each carving burr does and why not to use this great big 1-inch saw blade in your Dremel tool and or whatever, so you don't cut your fingers off.
yeah,
But
those are important classes. That's great. Yeah,
yeah.
people need those that have not been exposed to it, and also you eliminate the barrier to entry by doing that because now
Mhm.
they have all this knowledge and comfort that they're not going to be
that
afraid to pick up the tool.
that's my goal. That really
Yeah.
is my goal. Like the woman who came to a class one day and asked if her husband could stay, and we were in a really tight room. And I said, we don't really have the room. Does he not have anywhere to go? Do you not have a car? She goes, oh no, he has to stay to change the burrs for me. I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, tell your husband have a good day at the golf club or, at
Yeah,
the
wherever he wants to go
mall or
today.
something, because you're learning how. And at the end of the day, she says, I feel so empowered now. I don't have to ask him to do it for me. And it's like, why didn't you ask him before? But okay,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Or why didn't he take the time to
teach
teach
me.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, people get afraid to think that they can't learn something though, too.
Yeah.
So, it,
And some of the best carvers I know are 70 and 80-year-old women. They have just gone crazy and they're doing beautiful things, really, truly amazing things. So
awesome.
we shouldn't put limits on ourselves.
Yeah, but we do. We do. We get afraid.
Yeah.
To have somebody similar age as them to teach them, I bet makes a huge difference too, because
It does. And I find I
relatable.
love teaching adults. I didn't care for teaching ninth graders particularly, but the adults, it's different. They want to be there.
Hmm.
Most ninth graders don't want to take a PE class, or a lot of them don't. But
Yeah.
all these people that come to my classes, men and women, they want to be there and they want to learn. And they're like these sponges that just suck it up.
Yeah.
So they go home excited.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you go home excited too. Like,
I do. It's very rewarding.
it rubs off, I'm sure, the energy of like just having
It
to see
does.
all those sparks in people's eyes.
Yep. And I love seeing what they do, because unlike most of the teachers in the gourd world seem to teach projects, and a lot of people really like that. Okay, today we're going to make this gourd. And when they're done, everybody's gourd looks pretty much the same. They might be slightly different colors or something, but it's basically the teacher's design that they've given them. And I like people to learn how to be creative on their own. So I will give them so many options, as far as, okay, we're going to learn how to carve, but you can do this or this or this. And then I want to see you, put a little bit of your own spirit into it. You don't have
Mhm.
to have it look just like this one. And so I try to teach them to think a little creatively.
That's great. No, that's
Yeah.
it's important because you're getting them to get that, like you said, that creative thinking going, those juices flowing, and hopefully they'll take it home and
Yep.
continue to
And
have
some
that
really
grow.
do. Some certainly buy into it for sure.
Do you have people follow up with photos and stuff for you, like after the
Yes.
classes? Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And it's really nice to see. And sometimes I think, wow, that's really good. I better step up my game now.
Well, yeah, to get inspired by what they're doing, that's
Sure.
what it's all about, I assume, like All right. You learned and you
Yep.
took that.
There's a lot of very creative people out there if you just give them kind of the permission to do it.
hmm Right.
You know?
Yeah. I know it is a hard thing to, I guess, invest in yourself to follow a dream that you had. Like I've always wanted to do this on the side. Like,
Mhm.
but how can I rationalize spending money on myself? But once
Yeah.
you get there and you start doing it, it's just like going to see a game. You could spend $250 to go watch a football game, or you can get yourself a nice set of tools and have
Yes.
years worth of fun off of that one payment.
Well, two ladies came to class one day and their husbands dropped them off and they were going to play golf. And they each picked up some carving burrs in class because what they had was not really, I mean, a lot of people come with just a package of diamond burrs and think they
Yep.
can do everything with that. So anyway, they bought some burrs and at the end of the day, they went to pay for them. They said, oh, wow, I spent a lot of money. I didn't mean to, buy this many things. They didn't even spend $100, but they thought that was a huge amount of money.
For
And I said, well,
themselves.
what does it cost your husband to go play a round of golf today? And they kind of looked at each other and they said, no problem, we'll take care of this. So it was funny. Yeah.
I mean, that is funny though. Like to think about that. Like I said, like I was comparing it to going to a football game, but yeah, going to a round of golf, like that's like a
No,
$100
yeah,
day.
nothing wrong with golf. Everybody
Yeah.
has their hobbies, but they had their hobby for a day. And these people have the tools that they can use for years.
hmm
So there's a little bit of difference there. It's
Yeah.
an investment instead of a recreational
Yes.
thing, I guess.
No, totally. So I run social media for this place called Haven and Workbench Con. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're
Mm-mm.
all about empowering people to invest in themselves and to grow and to really take their interests and bring it to the next level. So I always love hearing stories of people doing that because it doesn't have to, you don't have to sell your stuff afterwards, but just investing in yourself to do something that you really enjoy. It's
Yeah,
huge.
we all come from different backgrounds, and I think some of us are luckier than others. Like you had your dad that you
hmm
said helped you with tools. My dad, while he wasn't a woodworker, he had tools, and he didn't say I couldn't use them. Like a lot of men said, no, that's just your brother.
Yep.
Like my brother and I, one week I would mow the lawn and he would do the dishes, and vice versa. So they were pretty forward thinking even back then
Yep.
that women should be able to, have a chance. And I enjoyed that because I didn't want to wash the dishes. I wanted to mow the lawn.
100%. Yeah, I'm gonna choose mowing the lawn over washing the dishes any day,
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
unless it's really gross out. But
Yeah. Okay. Uh,
you're used to the heat.
well, growing up in Minnesota, I always found that 90 degrees and 90% humidity was pretty miserable.
hmm
90 degrees in Arizona is really pleasant, actually. It has to
That's what
get
I
up over
hear
110 or so before it really gets overbearing.
because you have the nice dryness to it. Yeah, the humidity here
Most of the
is.
year. Most of the year.
It
Yeah.
does to get a little humid over there once in a while.
It gets humid usually this time of year, which is why I come up here. Then we get
Smart.
monsoons that come through and raise the humidity during that time. So,
Makes a lot of
but,
sense. I follow a lot of woodworkers in Arizona and they've been sweating bad.
oh yeah, it's been really hot.
Yeah. Do you slow down in your production wise in the summer too because of that? Because you just like don't want to be
No,
sweating? No, you
no,
power
not
through?
really. Yeah, I just work differently. I go out in the mornings, go out in the evenings. There's been many a times I've been sitting out working at 8 o'clock at night in the dark with the lights on, and my neighbors are pretty cool. They live far enough away. I guess I don't disturb them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the pictures that you sent me, I loved just you and your natural element. You just chilling in a chair. You got your carving tools in your hand and you're just working away. Like that's
Yeah,
got to be your happy place.
it's been a great peace of mind kind of hobby to have for sure.
hmm And to turn it
So
into a career, it's even better.
yeah. Yeah. Well, when I first got started teaching classes, my very first class I ever taught, I went to I don't know, Home Depot or whatever, and I bought about 20 extra carving burrs of different shapes in case somebody came and didn't have everything. I'd at least have some.
hmm
And when I got there, I had two classes to 15 students each. They'd all gone out to Home Depot or wherever the night before and bought a
hmm
Dremel tool. That's all they had. And Dremel tools come with like maybe a ball burr, and the
Right.
rest of them are metal grinding burrs and, things that aren't really appropriate for carving.
Right.
And so I
Those like
said, okay,
ceramic
well,
looking ones that burn out in
yeah,
3 seconds.
yeah. I said, we've got to share all these because, this is all I have. And my husband, who had just retired and was coming out to help and stuff, he says, I think you're going to need to start buying more and bringing more. And I thought, well, I can't keep doing this, going and buying them at Home Depot or whatever. So you asked me earlier, at some point, how did I get started with Sabretooth? Well, it was a little bit in, but I started buying burrs from different sources, and I finally got one that would agree to sell to me with a business license. And so I started selling another brand of burrs, and they started undercutting their dealers quite a bit. They'd sell on sales cheaper than what I could buy them for as a
Yeah.
wholesaler, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So about that time, somebody from Sabretooth wrote and said, hey, we are a brand new company. We're just getting started. We see you sell this type of tool, and would you be interested in trying out some of our samples? So they sent me out a box of samples, and I thought, oh my God, these are awesome. I loved them.
Yeah.
And so I kind of have stuck with them ever since, because I haven't found anything I like better.
Well, that's what I was curious what you were buying at Home Depot, because you go in there and there's not really
Dremel. That's about all they have.
I was gonna say there's not really anything on the shelves, and there still isn't. And it's
No.
like it's really challenging. And like doing CNC work like I do as well, we have the same issue. You can't just go to the store and go get the right size bit you need, so it takes some pre-planning. You can't just wing it. But once you get those burrs in your hand, you don't go back. You'll never go into Home Depot again looking for a burr. Yeah.
Well, I got started. I told you I had the website, and people would write me and they'd say, hey, where do you get this particular type of bead? And I'd say, well, I bought them at the gem show, which comes to Tucson once a year and is like one of the world's largest gem shows, and thousands of dealers. It's quite a thing.
Wow.
And I said, if I go back to the gem show and I buy 100 of something instead of only buying 5 of them, I bet you they'll give me a discount. And so I would buy 100 and I'd keep what I wanted, and then I'd put the other on the website, and boy, they'd be gone because people couldn't get them anywhere else. And so that was kind of it with burrs. Well, if I get the burrs, I can buy in bulk, and then, I can use what I need, but it became, I need these for my classes is really what it became.
Yeah.
And so it turned into a business without my ever really having thought that's what it was going to be in the beginning. But it's been a good thing for me. My husband died about 6 years ago, and it was nice. I wasn't of retirement age at the time, and I was able to support myself on my own business, and not many people get to do that. So that was great.
That's huge. Yeah. To be able to continue on. And it was really smart to get that resale license, because that opened up all of that. Like each step that you've taken just keeps bringing you to the next level where you can, like you said, be self-sufficient. And
yes, I like that word, self-sufficient. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great feeling, isn't it?
Yep, it is. So, but I mean, I still love what I do. It hasn't ever become a job. I mean, it's what I work at, but it's not a job, which is really nice. And not everybody has that flexibility.
Right.
When you have a young family, it's much harder to do that. When you're older and your kids are grown and gone, and you have time and stuff, then you can, have that advantage of time.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, believe me, I feel the crunch.
I'm sure you do.
I had them later in life too. So like I'm 40 now and they're 6. So it's I enjoyed my life fully before, but now I'm like, man, definitely don't have that time anymore. I actually just went full time.
They'll keep you young.
Yeah, they do. I just went full time, like self-employed 3 weeks ago. This is my 3rd week of doing it, and I absolutely love it. But I waited until they were in school. Like you called it out 100%. Like they had to be in full day school where I'm gonna have that pocket of time,
Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't work.
Yep. You couldn't.
No,
I'm sure it was hard for so many moms, especially dads too, but being at home during COVID and stuff, they had to leave their jobs because somebody had to take care of the kids, and it usually falls on the women. Not always. My son-in-law raised my grandkids at home because my wife was the one working. Yep.
Yeah, my husband did the same
Well,
things. I continued my day job, and he ended up staying home with the kids for quite a while. So,
yeah, whatever works for each family.
the only thing I don't like about like COVID going away is that there's so many party invites again. Like so many.
Well, that's not a problem for me. I tend to be a bit of a loner, I guess, most of the time. And actually I think that's why my teaching is great, because it gets me out and gives me a social opportunity, because I live alone and my cat gets tired of talking to me. So I have to have somebody to talk to.
It's true. It's true.
When I'm standing in a carving class and I'll say, here is what you're going to need to do this.
Yep.
But I don't say you have to buy this burr, because
Right.
I know not everybody can afford
Mm-hmm.
what the other people can afford. And so I say, here are 3 or 4 alternatives that are all similar. Here's the advantages and disadvantages. The advantage of this one is it's inexpensive. It's not going to last as long, but it'll do for learning to see if you like it. And then over here at the other end is really top of the line, costs a little more, but it should last forever. That sort of thing.
That's perfect though, because yeah, like you said, everybody has a different price
Yeah.
level that they can achieve. And I did notice that on your website too. Like I can see first of all, from the years of you doing the classes, you know exactly what you have to write in there. It's very detailed. Like come to the class, bring a Dremel or whatever carving tool you're using. Also bring this, this. Like, and like you said, you don't name names. You just say bring what
No.
you have. You have carving burrs, awesome. Bring those. Like,
Yes. Yeah, you kind of have to do that, because everybody, like I said, has different budget, comes from a different place. The only time I've ever said don't bring something was I had people that thought that they could go to Harbor Freight and buy a $9 carving tool, little bitty thing, and it came with a little box of diamond burrs, and they thought they could carve gourds with it. And I said, you just can't. You just can't. It doesn't have enough
I
power.
say you need more power.
The tools don't, the burrs that you have don't carve. They're diamonds are meant for sanding or something, they're not meant for carving. So I said, please don't bring those. But beyond that, and the first classes I taught, everybody had a Dremel. Everybody. Well, maybe one person had a Fordham that was a wood carver. And then as years have morphed on, I've seen a change, because most of my target audience is retired and women, a lot of them, probably 75% women. They said, well, the Dremel tool's so heavy. So a lot of them went out and bought micromotor tools. And so now at a class, I'd say 90% have micromotor tools, and then some have Fordhams or some other type of tool.
That's cool.
So,
That's interesting to see it change. I agree. I don't like carving with a Dremel. It's super bulky. I mean, you can switch to the pen tool, but then you got the extension hose attached to your Dremel. It's like that's too much.
I own a lot of tools just because this is what I do, and
Right.
so it makes sense to have loaner tools and other things. So I probably have 4 Dremels. I have a Fordham. I have 2 different micromotors. I have an air tool. So, but I have like one tool that I use as my go-to, and the rest are access. Here, if you need a tool, you can borrow this. But I carved with just a Dremel, no flex shaft, just a Dremel for probably 15 years before I moved to a micromotor, because in the beginning, micromotors didn't have enough power. And then they made big changes along the way. And then I decided, okay, now it's the time to switch. But I would keep 2 Dremels, one over here, one over here. And when this one got too hot to hold, I picked up the other one. So I like having a micromotor now where I don't have that heat issue problem.
So, okay, micromotor. What is a micromotor?
A micromotor is a carver that has a box with a motor in the box, but then it has a handpiece that is usually on a flexible, like a telephone cord, the coiled cord. Nobody knows what that is anymore because they don't have those kind of phones. Okay. So it doesn't have a flex shaft. It has a soft, flexible cord. And you're holding this small handpiece in your hand with no weight hanging off of it like a flex shaft. And the motor, the big motor or whatever that drives it, is in the box. So you're not holding something that's going to heat up in your hand. And there's many, many brands of them out there, and they range in price from very reasonable to very expensive. And, it's just a nice extra tool to have. If you can afford it and you like to carve, it's a nice addition.
That's cool. I'll have to look at that. I've been using the Works Tools rotary tools, and I really like them. They do have a cord that's attached to them that's thicker, Like that would
Mhm.
probably be my one feedback to them, is just like, is there any way to make this a little bit more flexible? But the tool itself is so light. It's just like holding a pen. And I really enjoy
Mhm.
that. So that I would probably love the micrometer then, if that's taking it
Y-
to the next
You
level.
would. The micromotors have a lot of power. Some people would buy tools by other companies. There's a company from Germany named Proxon that has a pen like you're
Mm-hmm.
describing with the works. And but they don't have as much power
Right.
even as these micromotors. So, and the micromotors are kind of like a half and half between, say, a Dremel and an air tool.
Yep.
They have the more of the torque like the Dremel, not as much, and more of the speed like the air tool, not as much. So they kind of are in the middle of the two, and they have kind of the best qualities of both, which is why I personally like them.
Oh, you definitely need it too for what you do. Like your designs are super intricate. So to have that
It's
precision is probably key.
Yeah, it's nice to have something a little lighter too, because I'm getting
Mhm.
pretty arthritic as I get older, and it's much easier to hold that than those big old Dremels with no flex shaft. That's why I made part of the reason why I made the switch, combination of having the tool become more powerful and having my hands become less powerful. That was the
Yeah.
combination that moved me to it.
It's great when you have
So
a tool and then it pairs so well with the burrs. Like,
that's
yeah,
right.
it's a
Yep,
win. It's a win.
that it is a win. I'm really glad that whoever it was contacted me, because it might have been years before I ever found them on my own. I
Hmm.
get introduced to things sometimes by my students. I had a student come to class one time. She says, "Oh, here, I bought this new burr at a wood turning show. And why don't you try it out and see what you think?" And it's like, oh, I never would have heard of that if she hadn't
Yeah.
showed me.
Yeah, that's great.
So,
And to see that they're that passionate, they're going to shows and bringing back things. Do you have a lot of repeat people? Like they
oh
come
yeah,
back? Yeah.
yeah. And I guess they keep coming back not only because they learn something new every time, but it does become a social outlet for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And so we usually have a pretty good time.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it. It sounds like it would be a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yep.
I want to come to Arizona and take a class. I'm like,
Anytime.
I'm like, that would be real
Anytime.
cool.
But I also travel around. That was one of the side effects. The nice thing of the job is that once I had written this book and my name got out there, I'd have clubs from New York or Georgia say, "Hey, would you come out and teach a thing for our club?" And so
Mm,
I'd work out some details with them so that it would be financially viable for both of us.
right.
And then I'd go and teach for 3 days or something. And I have really enjoyed getting to see people from around the country and do things with them.
That's huge. And you enjoy the travel yourself too, it sounds like.
Uh yeah, I'm slowing
Yeah.
down a little bit
Yeah.
now, but yes,
Back
it's
then.
fun. It's mostly, like I said, it's mostly for me the social thing, getting out there and
Hmm.
and being with people rather than sitting at home and just doing my own thing all by myself all the time.
That's why I
So,
like, I think that's why I fell in love with like the Instagram woodworking community.
mhm.
Because I mean, I may not be leaving my house to socialize, but to be
it
socializing with like-minded people is huge.
it is, and I feel like I have art friends from around the world now. While we've
Hmm.
never met personally, we've corresponded enough in
Yes.
many circumstances, and it's not just carvers, it's other artists. Like I've been in touch with a fella for years in Switzerland who's a leather worker,
Hmm.
but he does some really cool designs, and we chatted back and forth, and he said I asked for permission to try to emulate one of his leatherwork designs on course. He said sure, go for it.
Hmm.
So it's been a really nice thing, and I do try to avoid going around looking at other people's gourd art specifically, because I don't want to copy anyone else.
Yeah.
I want it to be at least semi original, but I do get inspiration from other arts, especially wood turners and ceramic artists and other people that work on three-dimensional
Forms.
vessel
Yeah.
type
Yep.
things. Yeah. And then the other funny thing is I'll see pieces from wood turners or from ceramic people that look like my gourds. And we've all borrowed, not
Hmm.
copied, but borrowed ideas. Oh, that's a cool texture. I want to try that. Or I like what they did with the hole cutting there, or something
Hmm.
to that effect.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it looks like you're inspired too, like you said, by like Native American art too. So like
Native
that
American and
shows.
nature are my two big things. But
Mm.
in the past, probably, I don't know, 10 years, 5 to 10 years, I've gotten into more contemporary kind of things.
Hmm.
I've tried to do some pieces that speak to environmental issues, and and that's always kind of interesting. You get totally different feedback from those than you get from your other pieces. So it's just kind of fun to do something different and that you feel passionately about. So
Yeah, no, 100% and to have a platform to do that too is always nice. You know what I mean?
it
Like
is nice.
to have it received and people to talk about it with them and just spark conversation.
Yeah, I don't do shows anymore. So once again, I miss out on that social aspect.
Hmm.
But I do go down. I have one gallery in Southern Arizona that represents me, and I go down there and I do like a, open house greeting art show, whatever you want to call it, for them, maybe 3 times a year. And people will come in specifically because they know I'm going to be there because they have
Hmm.
questions. They want to know, well, how did you do this? Or, wow, that's really cool. Or, whatever. They just want to see it in person. And I enjoy visiting with them because usually because I sell through a gallery, I don't know who buys my work and I don't know
Right.
where it goes. And so it's really fun to make that connection with someone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. And I mean, just amazing. Like you said, like I did notice that like nature is a huge part of what you do and everything's very organic, which is so cool.
Well, our medium, whether it's wood or gourds, is organic and
Hmm.
it seems to fit well together. So yeah, and like I said, I was a carver before I ever got into gourds. I brought this out from inside. This was a piece that I had made. Oh, I don't know how well you can see it.
Oh,
This
see,
was
great.
a carving I had made years ago for my brother. And so I went and pulled it out of his cabinet. So, but that's how I started, with the bird carving. I really
Hmm.
liked it. And my first things that I carved after that chickadee were duck decoys because I'd grown up in Minnesota and everybody up here has, well, in Arizona, there aren't too many ducks
Ducks.
or
Right.
hunters of ducks or anything. So I moved into carving birds instead. And I did that for a long time before I found gourds. And so my first gourds that I was doing, I carved birds on them, so
Hmm.
it kind of fits.
Yeah. I mean, it's a form that you're used to. It makes sense. It's something that you love. So,
Yeah.
and it works really
And
well because you're adding cool textures and patterns behind the birds.
and I wanted to combine those two interests. So a lot of my gourds, what I'm kind of known for is I carve a lot of gourds that have small basswood hummingbird carvings on top. I'll put a branch or something and then a
Hmm.
hummingbird. And so that way I put the wood carving and the gourd carving together.
Yeah. Marry them together. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. And like it's nice to be able to change mediums too. And
it
you know what I
is.
mean? Like it's like, all right, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed carving that gourd, but now let me get this piece of wood out and go into my other happy zen place with this. And then
Yep.
painting too. Is that something you've just progressed with? Like what do you use for color actually? Because it looks like you use a variety of things.
I do. A lot of times if there's a large background, I will use a wood dye.
Hmm.
I don't really like dyes because they're, no matter how good they are, they're not light fast, especially in Arizona. Even if you have the best quality dye and spray it with UV, if some person puts it in their window, it's going to fade.
Fade right
So
out.
I try to not use too many of that. Plus, you can't use dyes as effectively when you've carved on a gourd because the surface is porous once you get through the hard outer shell.
Hmm.
And while I do seal it, it still will darken if you don't do it right. And a lot of people don't know how to do that. And
I've
so
never really used too many dyes, so I would, yeah.
yeah, I use some, but mostly I use acrylics because acrylics, they'll be light, or you could use oils too. I have used oils, but
Hmm.
they usually take longer to dry and I'm impatient. So
And also, like,
but
you gotta clean your brushes. It gets a little crazy.
acrylics, if you put them on right, I have a good base, they will last pretty much forever.
Hmm.
And painting is actually my least favorite thing to do. I can do it. I do a fine job of painting, but it's not a pleasure for me the same way carving is a
Carving.
pleasure for me. I consider myself to be more of a 3D artist, and the other is just something that's necessary to do.
It's a byproduct. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people are probably they share that sentiment with you. Is like the painting something
There
they're
are a
like,
lot of decorative painters out there that I think I should team up with her. She could
yeah.
paint my gourds for me. But it's I have a class one time where we were using paint and some lady was looking very intently at the bottle of paint. She said, I got to write this name down. I love this color. And I said to her, oh, don't do that, because at the end of class, if there's two colors that are sort of similar, I just mix them so I don't have to keep all those bottles. And she looked at me like she was gonna die. She was so shocked that I would mix two bottles of paint together, because that was how she worked. So
Oh, it's so funny though. Like, I just like how you're like, good enough.
yeah, teal and this teal like turquoise are
I
pretty
say this
close.
peacock or
Yeah.
it all
So
works together.
yeah.
Oh
So I'm
man.
not a painting purist, but I do see a difference in different brands of paint. I think, for certain things, like if you want to paint the inside of your gourd with a color, you could probably get away with the cheap craft paint.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to do real painting, I prefer a little bit better quality paint. So
What's your go-to?
for bird carving and stuff, I use mostly golden
I was gonna say
paints.
probably golden. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they're the easiest to obtain, and you can look on the bottles and they'll tell you different things like light fastness and all that, opacity and those kind of things. So
I haven't played with golden too much. I ended up getting hooked on, it's called Alpha 6 paint.
hmm
And I like how thin it is, but it
hmm
goes on heavy. Like the color just soaks right in. But like you
yeah,
said, if I'm gonna paint the backside of my piece, that's gonna be the cheapest craft paint because it's the
hmm
backside. I just want it to be painted. Need some
yeah.
color.
And some people are product junkies and they'll buy everything. Somebody advertises this, they've got it, and
Yeah.
they let it sit on their shelf, and then when they go to use it, it's no good anymore. It's sat there so long, it's like
Mm-hmm.
dried up in the bottle. So I try to limit how much I explore. I'm not going to buy a whole set of some new kind of paint. I might
Yeah.
try one bottle to see how I like it. It's
Yep.
kind of how I got into the golden, because it's like, this is like, how much a
Yeah.
bottle?
Yeah, exactly. These
So
the same way. It's like these are pricey paints. So I bought a starter kit, like 3 paints. And I was like, all
yeah,
right, will I like these? Because I'm the same way. I'm not
yeah.
gonna just go buy, oh, it's 56 colors. Let's get them all. No.
There's some
I
people that do.
yeah, yeah. Those paints, like, you're going from $1 to $1.25 a bottle if you're buying like just a regular craft paint. And then when you go and start investing in like golden or like Alpha 6, what I do, like the smallest bottle is going to be 7, 8, 10,
hmm
$12, depending
hmm
on what you're trying to get. But once you find the ones you love, you know what application to use them in, for at least for
Yeah.
me.
I think people that have a little bit of a more maybe artistic bent probably are more comfortable with the more expensive paints,
Yeah.
because they understand that they can mix to get what they want. Whereas
Mhm.
people that really don't know anything about painting or color blending or any of that stuff, they're nervous because they don't know how can I get turquoise when all I have is blue, and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. So they'll just go buy a bottle of turquoise.
I mean, it's nice to just have a bottle of turquoise too. Like,
Sure, sure.
but yes, I totally get what you're saying. Like, you can get away with it with having less if you
Yes,
know
you can have
more.
a more basic set and make more out
Hmm.
of better paints, whereas you can't necessarily mix. Like if you mix certain reds and certain blues from craft paint, you don't
Hmm.
get purple, you get brown.
So you get that
So you
ugly.
kind of have to know. You have to know.
And the
Mhm.
ratio is very
Yep.
important. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. There's a mix-all. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
That's
It's like
something I use.
you add it to gel stain, and it's a color and additive, and they have
Okay.
it broken down for people so that same thing you can get more colors out of having less of their product. It's pretty neat. I
Gotcha.
haven't played with it yet, but I've got like the booklet, and it shows you like all the add 2 dots
Maybe
for this.
that should be my dream job next, is to
Writing
work for
booklets.
some company as a product tester. I would like that. That would be kind of fun.
Hex yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
like, actually,
experimenting.
that is kind of what I did when Sabretooth sent me some burrs. I
Hmm.
tested them out and found out, okay, I like this. And they actually started making, they have a 1/2 inch cylinder with a 1/8 inch shank,
Hmm.
and it used to have teeth on the end of it. And I said, can you make this with a safe end? And she says, oh, okay, I think we could do that. And so, because we were in our classes, we were carving along borders and things where we didn't want those teeth on the end to be cutting away our nice, neat border. And so, I think she appreciated my feedback, and I've always
Hex yeah.
appreciated her being willing to work with me. So
I'm assuming you're talking about Jody as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, she wasn't the person that
Good
contacted me in
show.
the beginning, but that's who I've dealt
Yeah.
with for years.
So Jody's been there. I think she said this is her 16th year. So they
Hmm.
must have reached out to you before her because it sounds like you've been using them for quite some time.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, hey,
Whoever
good
it was, and
job.
in the back of my mind, it was somebody named Mike, I think, but it was a long time ago.
It very well could have been.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Jody has that same thing where if she sees someone that she likes, she'll reach out to them and just like kind of cold call on them. I think that's a really cool aspect of Sabretooth, like they're watching and they're excited by seeing what everyone's doing. Like it's a true passion for them.
Yeah. I was excited. I don't know how many years, maybe 10 years ago, she came out and did the Arizona wood carving show. And I specifically went up to that because I wanted to meet her in person, which was really nice. And I
Yeah.
got to see the booth set up with the whole line of tools. And I've added to my line of tools over the years, gradually, as I've done specific woodworking projects where I needed something different, a larger carving head or whatever for
Yeah.
wood. So it's kind of fun to get to see them all. It's like, eye candy.
I saw like some of the video from the recent AAW wood turning event, and
Mhm.
just like the spread, it's just like just so exciting. You're
I,
like,
I
what
went
can I do with
I
that?
went to that when I was in Phoenix, and they would allow people to go in and see the vendor area, even if you weren't a member of the
Oh, that's
event.
cool.
And so we went up specifically just to see the exhibit and to look at the vendor stuff, and it was really cool just
Yeah,
to see what was out there.
absolutely. And to like pick it up and look at it and like, is this something I could use, or is this
Mhm.
way too big for me? Like to actually see like certain tools in person, that's a huge difference than just browsing on a catalog.
It was, and I bought a few new dye things to try, and I bought some different sandpapers that I hadn't used before, and tried them, and some I really liked. And so it was good, and I love talking to the wood turners. I have a mini lathe that's only like, oh, I don't know, that long. It's not very big, and because I used to do scale miniatures when I was
Cool.
younger for a living, I went around to dollhouse miniature stores and
That's like
sold them
hot
things
now,
I
just
made.
so you know. People love miniatures again.
Well, it was really huge when I was doing it. I mean, it was really huge.
Yeah.
And then it kind of died down. Maybe it's coming back. But anyway, so I had a lathe, and so I enjoy, but I don't think at this point I want to get into
Tiny
another thing
things.
that requires a large tool in my garage. So
Tell me about it. I just put a laser in my office and now I've got like
mm,
this huge footprint taken up of it. I'm like, okay, you're kind of at your
well,
limit now for what you can take
if I
on.
ever get out to Massachusetts, I'll have to come visit and you can show me
Please
how you
do.
use it.
We can play with the laser, the
There you
CNC. We
go.
can carve on the deck. It'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
I not everybody can afford to own every single tool, so
Yeah.
it's really cool to see what other people have
Yeah.
delved into. And
My CNC was actually given to me. So it like that's something
awesome.
I really, really wanted. I was very passionate about getting into carving, but I couldn't afford it.
Mhm.
Like I'm like I'm working a day job to support my family. I've got two kids. I can't really be spending a few grand on myself. So, sometimes you find a company that will work with you and it can change your life. Like it brought my
Yeah,
business to a whole nother level to where I was able to actually buy my laser. But yeah, I had
nice.
to work to that level.
Hmm.
Like you said, not everybody can afford to have all these toys. And I feel honored that, people like what I'm making enough to keep investing in me.
And I think that they feel that they're honored to have somebody using it that's actually using it. It's not just something sitting in the garage
Yes.
unused.
Right. Yeah. Like I needed that tool to do my business. So that's a daily tool for me, or at least weekly,
Sure,
depending. So yeah,
sure.
exactly. Because there are people who just get tools to get them, use them once, and then they just sit there. I could never be one of those
Hmm.
people. Like
No, I know some of those people, and it just makes me cringe because it's like, you have all these beautiful tools and you're not using them.
you go through and you're like dusting it off for them. It needs
Why
some
don't you
love.
give it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What tool have you wanted that you never made the plunge for? Like
Probably a lathe. I mean, I did
lathe.
for years, want a lathe, and I just had no place to put it. We don't live in a huge house, and my husband and I each had a car. So they were in my two-car garage, and
Hmm.
there was no place for a lathe. And so, I could put one in now. I only have one car now, so I could, But at this point, I'm thinking, do I really want to add something new at this point when I got other things, so many other things going on? Nah. So
Like, no, but yeah, and it'll change your direction because then you're gonna want to play with that thing all the time, and you have everything else going on in your world. So
and I am very multimedia. I don't just do gourds. Gourds are just the thing I'm doing
Mhm.
right now, and that I've done probably for the longest. But I mean, I've carved eggs and I've carved wood, and stone and all other kinds of things. And every tool or everything you do requires slightly different things to do it with. And
Mhm.
so you start building up this accumulation, and it's like, I got to do something with this again. I bought this tool to
Yeah.
do this, and now
Yep.
I need to do another one. So, and I get bored if I do this. Like for years, I did scrimshaw. I love scrimshaw. I did a lot of that. And
Mhm.
now I don't do it so much because I don't see so well, not as well as I did when I was in my
Yeah.
20s. But I like to do different things, new things. I'll do basket weaving one week, and then I'll do stone carving. I jump all over the place, but gourds are the thing that I've kind of come back to.
Basket weaving is fun. I did that in college. I had a good time doing that. It's
Yeah.
relaxing.
Yeah. It's what you do while you're watching the Olympics in front of the TV.
Because you can do it. Yeah, you can do it in the house. It doesn't make too big of a mess. You can't power
Yep.
carve in your living room.
No, not too well.
Not too well. I
Although
mean, you
last year I
could.
broke my leg and I was chair bound for 2 months while it healed
Oh,
because I had a fracture up into my knee. So I had this big old apron and my burning tools and my carving tools. And I sat there and I did it because I was going crazy after 2 months of not doing anything. So,
yeah. The bonus of being an artist is that, you can just sit in a chair and do something. And even if you can't walk, you can at least have your mind,
yep.
being utilized and expressing yourself. And I did want to tag on to what you said about you being a multimedia artist. Like, you really are. Like, yeah, you may be currently carving gourds, but you're not just carving gourds. Like you said, you're adding gems to them. You're doing stonework. You're adding, it looked like, I don't know, like crystals or something. Like it was in like a little bag that you added some really pretty blue on one of your pieces. It
I don't
looked,
know. I've used lots of different things.
yeah.
Like I was telling you, we have this huge gem show in Tucson. So I would
Hmm.
go and I would look at it like, what can I use to do something cool on my gourds?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where some of those weird things come from. Yeah,
Your
I
cactus
like to
teapot is like
inlay
one of the
stuff.
coolest things,
Oh,
by the
thank
way.
you. Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. And those are real cactus thorns. So there was a dead barrel cactus on my street and I harvested the thorns and they work pretty well.
Makes sense why they look so authentic then, because
Well, exactly.
you see it and you're like, that's a cactus teapot. Like, I know exactly what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. I snipped off all the really sharp tips though,
Make it a little safer,
so
a
I
little
could pick it
easier to
up.
handle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to be sitting there every time you grab it. It's like, no.
Yeah. Some people, especially in the wood carving world, some people are purists and they only want to use something that you've created. Like you can't make a rock. I mean, you can't use a rock. You have to carve a rock out of wood, or you can't use a branch. You have to carve a branch out of wood. I'm not quite that much of a purist, so I'm okay with using the cactus thorns on my gourds instead. I used to do those, and I made the wires with the thorns with wires. I didn't like the look,
Yeah.
and then I tried something. I used toothpicks, and now they're too thick, and thinner wood would be blunt. So I just went with the real thing.
To me, I feel like it's more authentic if you're using the real thing rather than
Yeah.
trying to create it. Like, I understand, like, what you're saying is like everything in this piece is all out of wood, but
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be. If you can make the other
No.
materials work that you're trying to make it look like, how cool is it to have a rock that's really a rock that you've manipulated?
If let's say you want to do leaves, you have to kind of make them out of metal or
Yes,
something
that's just the
because a
fun
real
part.
leaf isn't going to work. But a rock, yeah, you could probably do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, something solid, it'd be all right. And oh my God, I just looked at the clock and it's already 10 o'clock. We killed our whole hour already.
That's
That
fine.
was
I've had
really
a good
fast.
time visiting with you.
Me too. Like, thank you for coming on. It was an honor to sit with you and chat. You being like willing to join us while you're on vacation was awesome. And like, what a cool
Sure.
backdrop. You look so relaxed. I'm
I,
super,
I, I am relaxed.
yeah.
It's very nice here. I hope that somebody actually watches it. And if they have interest in carving boards, for instance, that they, email me or something, and I'll be glad to help them out.
Yeah, that'd be great. Are you hosting any classes in the fall? I did look at your schedule.
Yeah, I
didn't
have
see
some
any.
classes coming up. I'm teaching that in California in August, and I've got some scheduled for later in the year and in 2023. I don't know them off the top of my head, but
So best just send you an email. That way they can kind
yeah,
of see where you're going to be.
sure.
Perfect. No, that's perfect. And it's cool that you're going to be bouncing around.
Yep.
Hopefully one day I'll be in the right spot and be able to come
Okay.
join. That'd be fun.
That'd be good.
Totally into just seeing your process, because literally using these 1/8 inch spurs is new to me. I was a wheel girl. Like, I was all about the wheels, and now I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's have some fun and really get in there. So look forward to chatting more for sure.
Yep. It's been nice visiting with you. Thanks very much. And thanks to Sabretooth for being a good supporter of wood carving and gourd carving.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of it.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, I hope you enjoyed getting to know Bonnie, and go check out her page. Her website has some amazing examples of all the things that she offers if you're looking to learn how to carve, because she is so talented and has the most intricate designs that it would be a huge benefit if you're in an area and you're curious. Go check her out, and you really can be disappointed. All right, we just want to touch on the event that we have coming up, which is the Catskill Maker Camp, and that is in the Catskills of New York, and that is October 7th through the 11th. So head on over to their website, check it out, and see if it's something that you'd want to do. It's really fun, hands-on. We'll be out there power carving, doing quick carve demos, and having a little bit of a carving competition. So come say hi to myself and Sadie from the Awesome Orange. All right, have a great day and keep on carving.